This is a pretty big crowd. I think you know how significant the guest is that we've got today for Talking Tour. I had planned a really big introduction. You were going to walk in from the side, and I didn't know about Mark Renshaw coming as well. We've got Mark squared. Take a seat. Take a seat. Spoiled it. Okay, so to give it a little bit of context, Australians have been going to the Tour de France since 1914. An Australian won a stage in the Tour de France for the first time in 1981. Anybody want to guess how many stages have been won by Australians all up? 34 in total by Australians. Mark Cavendish, on his own, has won the record, 35 stages, Sir Mark Cavendish. And some guy who used to throw headbutts and help him get to the finish line first. Give it up for Mark Renshaw. Now, there's a great photo of you as a kid with David Miller. If you could go back to that kid and say, keep chasing your dream, you'll win 35 stages at the Tour de France, would he believe you?
Yeah.
That's the best answer we've had all week.
Yeah, it's... I've spent years trying to kind of explain it, but it's not like... It is a self-belief, but it's not it's a belief in what you can work at more than anything. It's always hard to kind of explain it, and it does come across as arrogance, and perhaps it is arrogance, but it's not thinking you're better, it's knowing that you'll do more than everyone else to do it. And I think I'm a true believer, and I'm instilled into all of my 5 kids. Like, they can do and be whoever or whatever they want if they put enough work into it. And I truly believe that that's a thing for life. So I put with Mark Renshaw for a few. I'm joking. Quite the opposite. Like, I'm very fortunate. Like, we met when I did, and of course, I think you can make your own luck at times, but there's opportunities come around. Yeah. Like, work with Mark right at the beginning of my career that can elevate that or make it happen a lot quicker. So.
Yeah, one of the things I think that made us really warm in the Australian public to Mark Cavendish even more was the Aussie connection with Mark Renshaw. Would I be fair in saying that? How much did you enjoy leading him out and being the first guy to put your arms up, even before he did?
Yeah, look, it was a pleasure. If I look right back, we had so much fun. In HTC, those days were just incredible. Not that we couldn't lose, but it was easy at that time. And then as we got older, we realised it wasn't easy, it was bloody hard. We were just so good. We had a great team.
That's true. But it made it a pleasure. Like, we weren't out training, we were out riding our bikes together, just having a laugh. Like, Bernie Eisel was another part of our little family, and like, just reminiscing these stories this week has been like, it's been so funny, hasn't it? And I think like our personalities and styles complement each other a lot. Like Mark's your whole family, they're like the coolest, calmest, like matter of fact, like
Mum's sitting here, so watch what you say, Gav.
And it's the anti-me, so like a lot of bike racing is mental stress, and that can be more exhausting, especially in the Tour de France, than the actual physical fatigue. And if you can have 100% trust in somebody's judgment and things, and somebody's ability, like I did with Mark, the amount of fatigue that takes away from you is pretty phenomenal, So I was very lucky for that.
I've got a pretty long list of favourite wins from you, but one of them is the one where you did get disqualified and kicked out of the Tour de France for headbutting Julian Dean. But not because you headbutted Julian Dean. We like him. He's a Kiwi. But what I liked about it was at the end you said, well, it was worth it because we won.
It was worth it, and looking back to this day, I probably wouldn't change now. After 16 years of being pro, I wouldn't have changed. I made the decision. I kind of got boxed in. Julian came across on me. I had to go late. Once I got clear, then I came back across, and it was like all moulded together. I did a few things wrong. And
So was it the first, the second, or the third headbutt that got you disqualified?
Well, it was probably the third, and I think, in fact, it was probably the movement back across over Tyler Farrar, who was his teammate at that time. We saw today Van Poppel get a yellow card for basically the same move. He started, opened up the sprint, he let Welsford through, you could see him glance, and then he closed the door. So it was this same move that I got disqualified for, and probably the third headbutt. The second one didn't move him, the third one did.
Matt, I don't know if he's ever told you the story about when he was going home the next day. But
I'm about to hear it from you, aren't I?
about the train station, but I'd love you to tell this story. It's one. Even when I think about it, I cry with laughter. You know, I'd love you.
All right, well, we'll set the scene. So I got disqualified that afternoon. They've come around, big media presence, did all the interviews. The best thing about the Tour de France is the show goes on. So already the next morning, I'm old news. Bang, Renshaw's home. The team at that time, Christy Scrimmager, she's like, make your own way home. Do what you got to do. You got to go home. So hotel was not too far to a train station, only a small train station. So I walk up the road, suitcase, trolley.
No,
We're fast
Mark
forwarding.
was devastated. Like there was tears. It was like we were in there. Like to leave a team environment that you've been building everything all year for is pretty hard, you know. So like to say like he's not often shows his emotions, but he was super down. Like anyway, go on, please.
So I'm just walking up the train station, head bowed down, just contemplating life. I'm sitting on the train station. Next minute, bing. Has anyone been to a train station in France? It's a really unique bing, bing, bing. Au revoir, Mark Renshaw. But
That was worth it.
probably the one punchline, because I could make it a really long story, but that was a quick one, is I was the only person on the train station.
That's outstanding. Okay, let's go to my favourite photo of you two. You want to guess which one it is?
2009 Champs-Élysées.
You got it in one. Mark, is that your favourite photo from your career?
Look, it's the most iconic picture of us together as a result, as a team. Looking back now, there's never really been a win like that since. And you can't do it now because you get a yellow card for putting your hands up as a teammate. So the best thing, no one's ever going to do a better
Mate,
photo than that.
you never would have raced if you were racing now.
7 yellow cards and you're 3 months out. But do you reckon they gave me a yellow card for every headbutt?
You're straight into red.
But
That's a great photo.
Honestly, looking back, it's if anyone's been to my bike shop in Bathurst, it takes up half a wall, that photo. So I'm very proud because it was a team effort, but to come through and finish 1-2 in that style on the Champs-Élysées was amazing.
How we went round that last corner, like I tell you, I felt my bum hole in my throat. Like that was so on the limit, and that's what got us. So that's following Mark. If Mark knows we can get through, so where Mark always differed from other lead-out men is lead-out men, they follow and they'll have the best way to go, but as a sprinter you have to follow. When Mark rode a bike, like he was riding a tandem, do you know? So there was never going anywhere that it wouldn't be easy for me to get through, you know, and so you could really trust. It was almost like you were sat in the back of a tandem. You could have closed your eyes and you knew you were there, really, you know.
It was fantastic to watch. That same year, one of my other favourite stages, and there's a long list, another one from you, was the stage to Le Grand Motte. Big crosswind, Lance Armstrong and Alberto Contador were teammates. Your whole team went on the front, and Lance saw that Alberto was in a bad position and was pretty keen to get away from him.
Actually, can I interject that it wasn't like that, was it? Like it was a crosswind. Like we were coming up to that corner, and we were in a headwind. And in those days, you didn't have your Garmin's and that with the maps on, but you did your homework. And we dropped back because we were in a headwind, so just go back in the group a bit. And then we saw up ahead, it was turning. And
It was
Mick
Michael
Rogers was just like, no, George Hincapie said, come on. We just went to the front, round the corner, and it's crosswinds. It was just...
No, but it was Michael Rogers who made the call.
Made the call. It was Michael Rogers who made the call. Of course, it's nice to... it's a nice story because Lance was there, and but Lance he's a racer, you know, and I think I'm not a very good bike rider, but I make this front
Clearly.
split. I make the front split in a thing because you just know. If you're a racer, you just know, and it just so happened. I think probably carried on pulling because Alberto weren't there, but it wasn't what caused the initial split actually. So.
Yeah, okay, and I want to correct you on something. You keep saying I wasn't a very good bike rider. You were a bike racer, and that is vastly different. And you, Mark Renshaw, you'd agree with this, and you've confessed you didn't test well in a lab, you didn't have the great numbers, but what is it, Mark Renshaw, that made him, Mark Cavendish, such a great racer?
Look, I think we both didn't test well on a lab. I'm sure if you put us in our younger
Well,
days,
we've got something in common.
Well, we did at that point because if you put us both in a lab test and do watts, we both didn't perform that well. But when you put us in a race, totally different. And I think the reason that Cav raced so well was just his grit, determination, desire, all these kind of words you want to use to win. It was about winning. And that's the big difference between both of us, is that I could always be in the position, but I just couldn't get those big wins. I could be there right to the last metre, but then I didn't have that little bit more just to do that, one pedal stroke more. And that was the difference with Cav. He had that little bit extra when it really counted, and that's, I think, been his whole career.
Okay, Cav, so what about when you two got divorced and he went to Rabobank and he became your rival?
It breaks my heart, don't. It really breaks my heart. And yeah, it wasn't very.
He's
nice.
still not over it.
I'm not over it.
But you got back together again and the relationship was mended. What was it like for you then when you got the call to come back?
Well, already in the second year of the Rabobank contract, we were already talking, and that was Belkin at that stage, and it wasn't going that well. I'd slipped in a few different roles, and it just seemed I was just getting caught in crash after crash. And then it wasn't going well for Cav either at Sky. I think at that point he changed to Quick Step 1 year earlier. So we were already talking with Patrick Lefebvre about making the switch and changing back over. And I think we straight away slipped back into what we had before that.
Okay, now what about Project 35 and bringing Mark back for a second time? What level of contribution did having Mark there make to you getting that magical 35th win?
Yeah, a lot. I think above anything professional, his belief, do you know what I mean, and his drive to fight for me and defend me, you cannot imagine what that means, you know, that you have people backing you, not for any professional reasons, but because you always get more percent out of it, always, and that meant a real lot, you know. But it's tactical now. It's I came to Stan. Stan had never had a sprinter, you know, never. They'd never seen a sprint finish, and we had some good guys. They've got some good guys, but I was trying to put in practice. We kind of worked well. at building at the beginning of the year. But it's Mark's. I'm very animated when I talk, you know, and I know what I want to say. But it sometimes gets lost because I'm super animated, and you think, and you expect people to kind of understand what you think you know, if that makes sense. But Mark's very, very good at staying calm, explain something as it is, and just knowing how we ride, you know. Like, even down to, you're not the final sprint, but he looks at the course, and you're in the radio, okay, it's a little uphill here now. Like, the top is just round the corner, just hold on. He knows what I think and what, do you know what I mean? And those little things, they all add up to like a massive contribution.
You spoke about Mark Renshaw not being very emotional, and he doesn't show his emotions all that much, but he did show his emotions a lot in 2023 on the stage into Bordeaux, where it was almost a 35th stage victory. And that's about as emotional as I've seen you with the media around you, Mark, when a few things went wrong with the bike.
Yeah, like coming back to that, I think I was probably so emotional because I understood what that victory would have mean. And to come that close, like, I think if it could have went either way, it would have been different. And Phillipson, how he checked across the peloton at that point, I wouldn't want him to win his 35th stage with a relegation, but I think as we look back, that move should have been examined. Yeah. But that's how the UCI determined it. It's all starting to change now, but yeah, to see Cav get that close, it really hurt. And when you're not in the bike race, when you're in the car, it's totally different because you can't do anything. All I can just talk. And then if they don't want to listen, they just pull the radio out. But sometimes they don't even want to listen. But that's all the input I can give at that moment. And I think for him to get that close, it upset me.
I'm sure all of you were watching the start of the Tour de France this year, and it looked like maybe Mark Cavendish was going to be eliminated before he got the chance to sprint. Was there ever a moment where you thought, maybe I won't make the time limit and not get another chance this year?
No. Like,
don't you love these answers? I do. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you have to remember, there's riders get eliminated from the Tour de France nearly every day in the mountains. It's just, like, it's not really news if they get eliminated. So it's like, I've been eliminated one time, and it almost defined my career. And it was because I'd eaten disorder and Epstein-Barr virus. Like, it's quite, apart from that, I never was it. But basically, if you can finish 40 minutes behind and you only finish 30 minutes behind, you're damaging your chances of being 100% the next day in a sprint. Do you see what I mean? If you can lose 40 minutes, lose 39 minutes. I don't understand how difficult that is to comprehend. It's like, of course you can have an ego because you don't want to be last, but I'd rather be last and first than not last and not first. Do you know what I mean?
I love it. We get it.
I don't care. I don't care if people think I'm shit. I never have. Do you know what I mean? Because I know I'm not. Do you see what I mean?
So do we.
Like,
yeah, no. And you love explaining this, particularly when you join us in commentary in the Giro. If you see a sprinter come in with 10 minutes to spare on the time delay, your first thing is, stupid ride, they've wasted energy.
Well, honestly, that's how it is. And that's why they have time limits, because otherwise we would have taken an hour.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to profess that we haven't been on the limit a few times. There's been a few days that like genuinely were close and I'm battling, but you always make it, and you always finish. Actually, I got my inspiration to finish from this guy sat down here. My first ever Tour de France. I was way out my depth. It started in the UK. I'd won pro races, and I wanted to ride the Tour. Telecom put me in, and I wanted to see what it was like, the Tour de France. And yeah, honestly, I was way out my depth. And I did the first week. We did the first mountain day in the Alps, and I was already like seeing stars, you know. And we started the second mountain day, proper mountain day, and it started straight up a climb. Bam, bam. We were both dropped, weren't we? Bam, bam. And I pulled out. I stopped. And he rode to the finish, and you were eliminated, weren't you? But he rode all the way to the finish, and I remember, like, it was so inspiring. I was like, I'll never do that again. Like, I was so disappointed in myself. It can be done. Like, he did it, you know? And it shows a respect and a professionalism. And it was from that moment I had to pull out sometimes, like, but pre-planned if I was doing the Olympic Games on the velodrome or whatever. But I never stopped after that, you know?
The man he's talking about is sitting back here. We're going to bring him up in around about 5 minutes. That was a key mountain stage of the Tour de France of 2007. We then saw Mark Cavendish do the same on a stage to Rosier in 2018. Both of them were close to a half hour outside the time limit. The best sprinters in the world at that time, but they showed the respect to themselves, the respect to the Tour to finish. And in my mind, that says as much about Mark Cavendish's character and Robbie McEwen's character as their wins. Give them a round of applause. I've got 5 more minutes with Mark Cavendish. Normally I'd open it up to the floor, but bugger, I'm being greedy. I'm going to ask the next couple because he's got some commitments across at the hotel at 6 o'clock that he's got to get to. Let's talk about that 35th stage victory.
It was very nice. very, very nice day. It was that day especially, wasn't it? Like we targeted that, we knew it, that finish, it'll take longer than 5 minutes to explain, but that finish provides a good opportunity for a tactical sprint, you know. It was very nice. It was almost a relief. A relief's not the right word, but it's definitely felt. We'd all put so much into it, hadn't we? Like so much time, so much effort that it felt nice. It was very nice.
What was it like in the car?
Well, I can probably explain it a bit better than what he just did. So, he's still a bit lost for words, I think. Look, it was a stage we'd planned. Every stage we'd planned to have a red hot crack. We had a short climb, which was. It could go either way. If they were really going to race hard, it was going to be difficult to come back. Hindsight, or looking back, they didn't really put it on a high level.
But that was a lot to do with us being there. So our GC guy rode onto the front there. We showed our presence. We showed we were willing to defend it. And that kind of nullifies other teams from trying to attack it there. So the sprint is already before. But even before that
it's come back to it now.
But that sprint was won on the first day. Like I said, I was dropped, throwing up. I wasn't going to be eliminated, but I wasn't feeling good on the first day, you know. But how Mark was there in the car. He had a guest in the car. He had a guest in the car, and I was suffering, throwing up, overheat. The guest starts talking, and Mark's like, "Will you shut up?" You know, and.
The guest wasn't trying to give you advice, were they?
No, I don't know.
No, we had a VIP from XDS, our sponsor this year. They were coming to the tour to see what they were investing in. And first stage of the Tour de France, we've got 6 Astana in the last 6 of the race. We got our lead rider spewing everywhere, and we had Gazzoli stop 5 minutes later.
But Mark being around me, the boys being around me, holding my bottles, pouring water over me, putting ice, like that. That's where the race one was.
We look back.
We'll go through the sprint.
I never doubted that we were going to be anywhere outside time limit, and I never doubted he would step off because it's just not in his character. So we just grovelled right through the stage and we made it. We still had 10 minutes to spare, which is...
You know what I like about this? We're talking about the stage that you won, and we've gone back to the start and how it was won from what you saved on stage one.
It really is. Like, you don't give up. I'll tell you a story. Like, so I've got 5 kids, and one of them is crazy about cycling. He's 6 years old, and he wants to race. And I'm like, you're not racing. You're 6 years old. Like, you know? And he's like, but he loves it. He thinks he's a professional bike rider, you know? Like, and I'm like, come on, hopefully you're a bit too intelligent to be a professional bike rider, you know? But no, but he wants to race, and what can you do? If he wants to do it, like I said, as long as you give 100%, all the kids, whatever you do, if you give 100%, I will support anything you want to do. So I don't want him to race. I know what it's like to be a bike rider. I want him to have fun. He's in an incredible little club. He's got a frog bike, and he's got toe straps. I refuse to get it, and I say to my wife, like, if he still loves it like this, and it doesn't bother him that he hasn't got the flash stuff, like, then he still loves it. And that's what's, I love that about it. He just loves it. So, okay, he wants to race. I'm like, Haas, you're 6 years old, you want to race, like that pressure. And obviously, his last name's going to open up doors for him. But it's also, he can't go anywhere without people saying that's Mark Cavendish's son. Like,
it's also pressure.
So he wants to go and race. My wife's taking him to race. She's driven to race. And it's cold. It's UK winter now. It's cold. And it's 10 laps of a circuit by the London Velodrome. Kids, 15 minutes. And it's cold, you know. He set up, he's got a small hill, he's dropped first lap. My wife, he comes round, and he stopped. He stopped. My wife's calling me, and he's crying. And I was like, look, Cass, like, what have you stopped for? Like, yeah, I'm cold. I said, of course you're cold, it's cold. Like, you knew it was cold before you were racing. Like, I said, like, don't use that as an excuse because you dropped and stopping. Like, you're going to regret this, I promise you. So now you're going to cheer on your teammates who are carrying on, you know? And I said, I don't care if you're an hour behind. Like, you don't stop. Like literally, like, your whole life you've seen me fighting against everyone else who's been telling me to stop. Like, that's all I ask of you. Your mum is your teammate. Like, don't you see when the boys give me everything they do, if I don't sprint, I've let them down, I've wasted their work. Your mum's your teammate. She's taken the time to bring you to the race. She made sure everything's right, and you've let her work down. Do you see that? Because you haven't finished. And we don't care if you're first, you're last. Like, but we do. I do care if you give up, you know. And then he had a race the next day. This was just at the weekend. I was here, and I said, "Ma, he's not racing. That's it. Nah, he's not racing." And she's like, "Oh, he really wants to race." I said, "All right." And she took him down, and he finished. He's coming. He's got snot coming down. He's crying. His hands are cold. But he finished the race, and he did very well. And he's so proud, and he's so disappointed he stopped the day before, you know. And he didn't win. He was nowhere near winning. But he loves it like that. He's loving riding his bike, you know, and that's a long way of saying don't give up. But it's just a little story to show that, like, I have kids that I have to, like, show. What's the word? I'm getting old. I've had too many crashes. I'm forgetting words now, you know.
But it is the lesson of your career. There was a 5-year period from 2016. There was a 5-year period where you didn't win a stage of the Tour de France, and you didn't give up. People didn't want to give you a ride. They'd given up on you, but you persevered. You then won 4 stages, and then the next year you didn't win a stage, and you didn't give up, and you came back and you won your 35th stage. We are looking at a man who's been knighted as a Sir. He's been a world champion on the track 4 times. He's been world champion on the road. He won in Copenhagen. He's been the winner of Milan-San Remo. He won 3 stages at the Volta a Spagna, 17 stages at the Giro d'Italia, 35 stages at the Tour de France, 55 Grand Tour stage victories. We know him as Cav. He is a Sir. Put your hands together for the great Mark Cavendish. Can you stay with us for a little while we have a chat with Robbie McEwen, or do you need to go as well? Okay. I know you need to go. Unfortunately, Mark's not going to be able to hang around. Sally's going to he's got another commitment that he's actually already running. Oh, you got 30 seconds to get there. Can you send them a message, Sally? Let them know that he's going to be a little bit late. Speed's not a problem for him. Once again, put your hands together for Mark Cavendish. And now for the man who inspired him to never give up. He was a winner of 3 green jerseys at the Tour de France. He won 12 stages at this race, 12 stages at the Giro d'Italia, 12 stages at the Tour de France. Australia's greatest ever sprinter. It is Robbie McEwen.
Thank you.
Did you think that performance in 2007...
This seat's sweaty.
Did you think that performance in 2007 in the mountains, when you were eliminated, would be an inspiration for Mark Cavendish?
I won't say no, I didn't think it'd ever sort of plant anything in someone's mind, but it is really flattering to hear that, because it's something I always stood by in my tour career. I never, ever wanted to hear the sound of the person driving the broom wagon behind the last rider on the road grab the numbers and peel them off the jersey. I said, I'm just, whatever happens, unless I'm badly injured, I'm going to ride to the finish. And that year I was injured. I'd crashed on day 1, which I ended up winning. But it got worse and worse and worse as the first week went on. We got to the mountains. Cav and I got dropped in the first kilometre. It was embarrassing when it happened. And then I think we were a group of 4 or 5. We got to the first climb, Cav pulled out, then Stefano Zanini pulled out, then another dude pulled out, and there were just 3 of us. And then we were just scattered all over the road over the next 4 climbs. And as you said, I was over half an hour outside the time limit, but I was determined I was going to get there and go out at least on my own terms. And even when I got there, the team manager said, would you like us to go and talk to the race jury and see if we can talk you back into the race? I said, no, thank you. I've had enough. My knees had more than enough. I can't pedal another metre.
Mark, what sort of role did Robbie play as a role model or a benchmark in your career and that of Mark Cavendish's as well?
Yeah, it's pretty funny because we're talking up there in the meal hall at the Hilton, and there's so many ex-bike riders around, and we were actually only talking about Robbie this morning. We started bringing up old sprinters, Jan Kursipu, sprinters over the years that I'd looked up to and then been teammates. Although I wasn't teammates with Robbie, he was always a sprinter that I wanted to emulate. I wanted to win Tour Down Under. I wanted to win, Paris-Brussels, some of these races in Belgium. I thought I could be a bit handy at. In the end, I was never good enough and I went down a different path. But to have an Australian sprinter that you could look up to at that stage, and this is from when I was 15, 16, 17, so not quite making pro yet, and racing on the track, and then to get the chance to do Bay Crits against someone like Robbie, and then here at Tour Down Under, it was always something you look forward to and look up to be like a rider like Robbie.
Robbie, when you look at a lot of CVs of a rider who is a domestic or a lead-out rider, it doesn't tell the story of how good they were, and that's probably the case with Mark Renshaw. How good was he?
100% what you just said. You look at some other sports, particularly the American sports, NBA, NFL, they've got this huge list of stats about every player, and assists is a really big thing. And it doesn't exist in cycling. There needs to be asterisks, there need to be some sort of recognition of achievements. And it's a difficult one because the lead-out guy, he does have an incredibly important job, and you can't deny that they are the most important rider to a sprinter. But as you go down the line of the team, you go, oh yeah, but he was really important too, and what he did, and he did the early miles, and there are so many unsung heroes, but most definitely you're going up the food chain, there's no doubt about it. There are a greater number of riders who can do the churning out of the mile, set tempo, start to chase a break. And as you go up that chain of riders getting towards the sprinter, they get more and more unique. And there are less and less people in the world that can fill that position and get that job done. And Mark was one of those really unique beasts where they are, in a lot of races, fast enough to win in their own right. Some of the biggest races in the world, they're still fast enough in their own right to finish in the top 3 or 4, which is really, really good. And a lot of riders go, I'd take that and build a career on it. But they're also at the same time intelligent enough, selfless enough, and they've got presence of mind when they ride to do the right thing at the right time in the right way for the guy who's in their wheel and create that trust and lead them to victories. And arguably, really good lead-out men are rarer than really good sprinters. Because you might look through a peloton at the Tour de France and go, okay, we've got 9 or 10 very good sprinters. A couple better than the others, yes. But 9 or 10 really good ones. But you look at the rest and then you go, and 2 excellent lead-out men. And that's a
really good, I haven't heard it explained like that, and it's probably spot on.
Probably.
No, I'll give it this one. You've hit this one on the head. There is not that many guys who are excellent at leading out. They're trying to do 2 different roles. They're trying to be a sprinter. They're trying to be a classics rider. They're trying to mix a few different pots, but it just doesn't exist where you have a pure lead-out man. The last one was Michael Morkov. He just retired this year. The next one coming through, we're yet to see, in your opinion, who's the best lead-out man right now in the peloton?
We saw him today.
Yeah,
Danny Van Poppel. I'm going to open up to the floor. After this answer, I'm keen to get some questions from the floor. I believe that today we saw the world's best lead-out rider in action. It was Danny Van Poppel.
And he's exactly that type of rider, and it took him a while, but now I think he's found his niche and embraced that niche, that is the perfect role for him. He still needs a little bit of fine-tuning. Anyone who watched the race today and sort of knows the nuances of sprinting know that he'd done his job, he swung off to the left, and then he swung back into the right, which is a no-no. He got yellow carded. If he does it again, he'll be out. He's probably thinking to himself, well, the next chance for a lead-out's on Sunday in the final stage, so whatever. Sorry, that's just me thinking like a sprinter. I sometimes forget I've been retired for nearly 13 years.
I think that will get him out of the next 7-day racing.
Yeah, you'd have to serve a ban on your next planned program, wouldn't you?
So it might get him out of Paris-Nice, or
yeah,
that'd be
You
devastating.
might want to get eliminated. Anybody like to ask either of them a question? Here we go.
It's Will.
Will was on the tally today. His favourite rider, the microphone's not, his favourite rider is Ryan Mullen. What's your question?
Who was the best competitor you sprinted against?
The best competitor you sprinted against?
I really need to break it down into eras, and I've spanned a few generations and saw guys leave when I was on the way up, and then saw guys come up when I was on the way out. And I think it wouldn't be fair to pick just one because there were so many that I saw at their peak. And I'd start out with Mario Cipollini. In those early years, I found him to be just unbeatable. He was an absolute weapon with an even bigger ego. He had an incredible team, talking about lead-out specialist. Giovanni Lombardi just piloted him so perfectly all the time. So he was the best in that era. The next to come along, Alessandro Patacchi, another guy who just seemed to get faster all the way through the last 250 metres. And you had to be on your very best day to get the better of him. And I did a few times, but not enough times for my liking, because in head-to-heads, he beat me more times than I beat him. after that, there was Tom Boonen, who was more classics rider than sprinter, but on his day, he was so ridiculously powerful. And then Cav came along. And at the end of my career, it was still Cav and then the emergence of Marcel Kittel, who just took me back to when I was a kid watching Rocky 3.
Rocky 4.
Rocky 4, sorry, Ivan Drago.
Drago.
I must break you. I mean, the thing was, Kittel was friendlier, but no less
He had better hair. He had better hair than Ivan Drago. Any other questions from the floor? Yeah, down here. I'll go there and then to you.
What was your greatest win ever?
I touched on it a little bit earlier in the edition of the Tour in 2007 that Cav mentioned, his first one where we both ended up out of the race. On day one, we were racing from London to Canterbury when the Tour started in London, obviously. With about 20k to go, came from quite a wide road to a narrow road. There was, big bottleneck, touch of brakes, sort of concertina through the peloton. I grabbed a handful of brake and I pulled it up successfully. I thought, well, that was close. And then smash, someone hit into the back of me and flipped me up and over the handlebars. I flew in the air. I came down, landed on my wrist and my knee really pretty heavily. Jumped around swearing for 20 or 30 seconds while a teammate of mine, Johan van Summeren, who won Paris-Roubaix in 2011, he waited for me, picked my bike up, got the chain back on, was going, come on. And I was still swearing, saying, well, this one's over, we're not going to get back. By that time, we were over a minute behind. My main rivals at the time, Tom Boonen from Quickstep, Daniele Benatti from Lampre, their teams had got the message that I was out the back. The year before, I'd won 3 stages in green, and they were itching to get me back. They sent their teams to the front to lift the pace so I couldn't get back on. And we were sort of plodding along with 2 of us, and I was shaking my head. And we came around a corner with that 18k to go, and nearly all the rest of my team was there, bar for Cadell Evans, who was trying to ride for GC, so stay in the bunch, and Fred Rodriguez as a backup, just in case I didn't make it back. So all the rest rode a team time trial as hard as they could. We managed to reach the back of the peloton with 5k to go. In that 5k, there were about 7 corners, 9 roundabouts, which suited me perfectly. I was just dive bombing from every angle, making up 10, 15 positions at every single turn, coming through the pack, recognising I knew someone's name, even if they're from the Euskaltel team, the Basque riders. Hey, Mikel, I think it was one of his mates, move aside, shoot straight through. I got back into around the top 20 with a kilometre to go, and then the lead out was in full swing. Eric Sabel's Milram on the front. But by the time I got to there, I said to myself, not quite out loud, but it felt like it in my head, forget the rest, you're here now, you can make it. Although I sort of knew it was kind of impossible. And as we came up a rise in the final straight, there was an early hit out from Robbie Hunter, the South African, and everybody sort of got nervous and jumped, pounced to follow, but it was way too early. And I actually lost a couple of positions, just trying to not blow my legs up. And as he inevitably started to run out of steam, things propped. And Bernie Eisel actually came around me on one side and another rider. And they started to surge forward. I went, this is exactly what I need. And I started to follow around the outside of the bunch. And there was a kink in the road to the left with just over 200 metres to go. So you couldn't see the finish line yet. And sprinters, as clever as we are, someone's a little bit dumb, we'll wait till we can see it till we sprint for it. But I knew that if I could go before I could see it, on the outside of that bend, cut back to the inside and get across the front, I was a good chance. And I just went 2 pedal strokes earlier than everybody else, got around the outside, out of the wheels, big slingshot, and as the others hit that kink and were moving to the outside, I was across the front, back to the inside. Everybody missed the slipstream of my wheel. Suddenly I was 3 or 4 lengths in front, and I got maybe 50, 70 metres from the line, and it started to dawn on me like, holy shit, I'm going to win. And there was a mental slap across my own face, like concentrate, get it done, go all the way. And I got there and I sat up, and it's probably the only victory salute in my career where I honestly didn't know what to do. There was nothing pre-planned. I hadn't put any thought in. I just sat up, and if you could have had no sunglasses on, you would have seen in my eyes like, oh, bullshit.
I'll come back to you. I'm glad we got to hear that story. Next one.
This question's for you, Mark. Mark Cavendish has been quoted as saying he's going to go into the London Marathon in April this year. Any chance of reuniting the mateship and being his lead-out man for the marathon?
It's better than that. It's the Paris Marathon. You can get another photo.
And finish in front.
Well, you might have seen him because he's been actually out running most mornings here. He doesn't roll out till a little bit later. There's a run club with Keno here at 6:30, which is pretty fast, if I do say myself. I did join once. So Cavs, yeah, he's training for a marathon. There's no chance in hell that I'm ever going to do a marathon. But I can tell you, I did run 6K, 7K with him 2 days ago, and I stuck it to him. I made him suffer. So I was pretty happy with that.
I want to know, if you two were going to line up for a marathon, it'd have to be a bit of a novelty thing, you know, a twosome. What would you dress up as?
Have you seen those dinosaurs with their heads like... Maybe dress up as two dinosaurs, because he's got real short legs.
That's the thing that always served Mark really well, to be honest. The T-Rex arms got him in that low slung position, head over the front wheel.
T-Rex, there we
built
go.
to be aerodynamic, so that suits.
He's not here to defend himself. Next question.
No, exactly. That's why we're going for it.
Hi, to both of you. The Tour de France is the crown, but there's the Giro and all the other races. It's a business, you're working hard, but which of the tours around the world do you find the most pleasurable, that you actually look forward to enjoying participating in?
I reckon I could answer for both of us. Yeah, honestly, none of them are enjoyable, because you turn up and it's like you said, it's work. You're going there and you know you're going to suffer. And it doesn't matter how good you're going to suffer, because there's always someone that can climb faster, than sprinters. But nothing beats Tour de France. When you turn up at Tour de France in the best form with good legs, and you can start kicking guys' teeth in, that's fun.
Yeah, and I got to agree that the Tour de France is the pinnacle, so it makes it your favourite, because success there means you've made your career. But as an enjoyable race, back to your question, I really enjoyed being a part of the Giro. The Giro d'Italia had this really pure cycling atmosphere, where the Tour de France is a massive beast. It's a circus. There are people who are there to see it, who are not necessarily cycling fans, but it's a bucket list item. You've got to see the Tour, and there's a lot of that.
Okay, we're going one more question down here. As I go down there, I want you to tell the story about your stage win in the Giro, in the rain, left-hand corner at the end. You made everybody crash.
And that's where you should have just dropped the mic and walked out. 2004, and it was up north near Venice in Sardona di Piave, and it was a pancake flat stage, so I'd already marked off that's going to be a bunch sprint, and we came into Sardona di Piave, and we had finish circuits, which I often did in the Giro. The Tour would always be point to point, straight into town, finish. The Giro often had these circuits, and the towns were just absolutely going off. But on the way there, we're chasing the break, but you could see in the distance these huge black clouds rolling over, and it looked like a tsunami coming in. And as we got near the finish town, all hell broke loose out of the sky. There was, this much water on the road in parts of the circuit. And we took a couple of corners, and it was as Mario Cipollini's team leading things around the circuit. And I noticed coming into the corners, myself and my teammate Nick Gates, we're just rolled through what we felt was an appropriate speed, and we passed them. We rolled off the front. We thought, oh, hang on, everyone's having trouble with this road surface and traction. And we were feeling really good on it. And I tested the last corner one of the times through, and that felt okay. So as we're coming towards the finish, it was still soaking wet. There was water spray everywhere. You could hardly see a thing. The last corner was 90 degrees, and from the corner to the finish line, I think was about 190 metres. So you led in the corner, you're almost guaranteed to win. So as we're coming down the final straight towards that corner, Mario's team had lined things out. They were at full tilt at nearly 70 k an hour. So I came up the left side, which is going to be the inside, and I said, I'll just go now, and I think I could just take this quicker than everybody else. I came along past Mario, had a little quick, and as he looked to the side, for the first time I ever saw fear in his face, and they just egged me on. I passed his lead out, approached the corner, and I started to swing in, but I just distributed my weight very carefully, thinking of my BMX background. Grew up my whole life with not much traction. So I come into this corner, and as Mario tried to bank in and follow me, so did a Spanish guy right behind him, Isaac Galvez. And as soon as they got to the apex of the corner, I felt great, balanced, carrying speed, and then I heard this noise. I thought, that sounds weird. Exited the corner, stamped on the pedals, and what was going to be a really quick look over my shoulder to see who was in the wheel and what was going on. You just sometimes can't help having a look. I looked over my shoulder and it was just nothing but a pile of bodies and bikes sliding across the road, the barriers exploding, and then I could ease off and go, well, how about that?
Last question down here.
Mark, this one's for you. Was there ever a point where you might have beat Cav when you were trying to lead him out?
That's a good question. No, it's a good question because there probably was a couple of races he could have gifted me the win. And when I say gifted, he could have just followed me in. There's one in Denmark, there was one in Britain, probably one in France, maybe. I could have held on. But as a professional, we're paid to do a job. And it's never over till you cross the finish line. So you just can't, as good as we were, you just can't play the game and make it that easy that he gives me the win. He did give me a couple of victories. He gave me one in the Tour of Britain, where we finished 1-2 I think in the last stage, just before he went on to be world champion. And there's a couple of races where he helped me win. So Tour of Qatar was probably my biggest ever victory, and he was working for me in Tour of Qatar. So I can't say too many bad things about Cav as a teammate. He definitely helped me win some races, nowhere near the amount that Mark Cavendish won, but for myself, yeah, some nice victories courtesy of Cav.
Did you ever get the call from him like, oi, slow down? Because I had to do it to a lead-out man of mine once, twice.
He didn't say much at all in the lead-out. He never really said anything. But there was never a moment when he said, go easy. We definitely had a couple of stories where I went too early, hung him out to dry, and then you discuss it after in the hotel. It's probably...
Sure that was animated.
Sorry?
I'm sure that was animated.
Well, yeah, look, the worst ever was in the stage 1 of the Tour de France when we were racing in Holland. I forget the name of... You got the big long road in the ocean. Anyway, I've hit out 300 to go, blockhead win, and hung him out to dry. So it's cost him a jersey. It's, at that time it was huge. David Bramati, our director, crying. Wilfred Peters couldn't look at me.
I remember that one's on the Zeelandbrug.
That's it. And we had something like 5 quick-step riders in 8. We were 8 riders, and normally it would be first, second, third. And anyway, I completely botched it up. So as many as good times we had, we definitely had some bad times. And, credit to Cav is you just put it behind you and you look to the next one.
Well, you didn't botch much up. You had an extraordinary career. And do we agree that maybe we got our best question for the sunglasses?
Excellent. Excellent question. Well done.
I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. It was fantastic to talk to Mark Cavendish, but Mark Cavendish, a lot of his career wouldn't have been possible without Australia's greatest lead-out rider, the lead-out rider of his generation. Big round of applause for Mark Renshaw. And without question, the cheekiest commentator this country has ever produced, and our greatest sprinter, and our best at cornering in wet conditions, and one of the most charismatic. Give it up for Robbie McEwen. We've turned you off.
I'm on now, and I would just like to say, give it up for Australia's cycling encyclopedia. He is the best.
Yep.
Matthew Keenan.
Thanks, mate. We'll see you tomorrow, 5:30. Michael Rogers.